A big part of the journey of manhood and becoming an adult is recognizing where you can insert yourself into a social or community dynamic to make a difference. Knowing yourself is all about recognizing your unique gifts, your skills, and having the timing to apply them and to give and deliver those skills. So one thing that I'm learning more about lately is that men are constantly undervaluing their value and their presence in a space. Now, the place where I saw this most apparent is on the circle of men's teams that we have inside of our Rising Man Fire Circle community, where we do these team interviews every season and we find out what are the blind spots that men are having, what are the blind spots that the team's having. And a lot of times there's usually one or two guys on the team who happen to miss a few calls, and the attitude that they have around this, and I've been there before myself, is, oh, they'll be fine without me. Those guys know what they're doing. If I miss that meeting, they won't even notice that I'm gone. And the reality is it's so far from the truth. It's so far from the truth. It's like having a basketball team and missing your point guard. Having somebody that you usually depend on that brings a unique skill set, a unique perspective that, if absent, just simply isn't there. It's a vulnerability. It's suddenly a liability or a weakness for the team. And I think the same is true in our lives. I think a lot of us as men have learned to undervalue our presence in a space. Even if you're not speaking directly or bringing something specific to your family, to your workplace environment, thinking that our presence wouldn't be missed. But there's so many things that we offer in terms of presence, in terms of contact and connection that we undervalue all the time. And it got me really curious about this. Why do we as men think that we are so expendable? I think there's some larger social messaging around it, that men are less valuable than we used to be. We don't need men, quote unquote, men anymore to be protectors, to be providers. Women are capable of protecting themselves and providing for themselves now way more than they were thousands of years ago. And our families are capable of providing for themselves and protecting themselves. So where does our value as men? Where do we find our value? I think a lot of times this is why men find themselves in such difficult mental situations, mental health situations, because we don't really recognize the value that we bring to a space. We think that it has to be so much more. And I've found myself there just recently. I think that I have to bring so much more in order to be valued, in order to uplift the people around me. Instead, just my presence. It could be so simple as just being in the room with other people. You could be a comforting presence. You can be a stabilizing presence without ever having to utter a word. In a team scenario, I have had many meetings where the least experienced guy in the room asks one question that completely floors another man. Now, if that man wasn't there at that particular meeting, so he wasn't there to ask that particular question of that man at that specific time, what would have been lost? Maybe that question completely changed that man's perspective on whatever the topic is. But if that other man wasn't there to ask that question, maybe he'd never see it. And I think this is a really valuable mindset to have in our lives, especially as I look around and I see so many men undervaluing themselves. I've undervalued myself for so much of my life. And not to go in the other direction and make this a big ego trip and overinflate the value that I have and make myself more important than I need to be, but to recognize that when I'm not here, my presence is missed. When I don't show up, something I could have offered isn't available. When I don't connect with people, there's a connection that's missing. There's an opportunity lost at a minimum. And we'll never know exactly what we could bring into that space if we don't show up for it. So the message I want to really drive home here is to begin recognizing your value as an individual, as a human being. A big part of the journey of manhood and becoming an adult is recognizing where you can insert yourself into a social or community dynamic to make a difference. Knowing yourself is all about recognizing your unique gifts, your skills, and having the timing to apply them and to give and deliver those skills when it's most appropriate, when it's most effective. That's what impactors and influencers do, is we recognize when and where we can give our gift most effectively. And also when simply being present is the gift. When I don't need to say more than I need to. when I don't need to do more, when I don't have to be so hands-on, but just simply be here. That's a gift too. So any of you out there who are hearing this and recognizing that you have frequently undervalued yourself, I want you to start connecting to what the value is that you bring. Ask the people around you, the people who know you and love you the most, what is the value that I bring to a space? How do you feel when I'm around? Get to know that, get familiar with it, because the chances are is that you're not going to see it yourself first. You're going to need the community to reflect that back to you. And as you see that happening over and over and over again, maybe you're a person who people are consistently coming and asking advice of, or asking your opinion about a specific topic. And you start to recognize, hey, this is valuable. People are always asking me for nutrition advice. Maybe I should pursue that a little bit more. Develop that skill set. Look for opportunities to have that conversation with people. That's what recognizing our value and applying our gifts looks like. So don't miss the opportunity to give value to your community, to your men's circle, to your team, to your family, to the workplace that you operate in. Quit telling yourself that they'll be fine without you, because the reality is your presence will be missed. Yeah, maybe life will go on and the world will keep turning, but what is being lost by you not showing up and bringing the value and owning the value that you have? Just think about that. Think about that. And send this video, this recording, this podcast episode to somebody else who needs to be thinking about that too in your life. Much love. Thank you guys so much for tuning in each and every week. I'll catch you next time.